Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 6th season, we are looking at The Avengers. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, and I'm on the run from my past.
Today we're talking about Minute 17, which begins with a coughing child and ends with Bruce asking Natasha about her actress buddy. Joining us on the show today, it's author Ryan Dalton. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
We are thrilled to have you. We're going to be talking a couple minutes this week, today and tomorrow, about these scenes. And also, you'll be back next week. But I want to just start off. When we were getting people to kind of pick their minutes, you specifically wanted this, and I'm just wondering what it was about these minutes that drew you to pick them.
Yeah, well, for one, I'm a huge Hulk fan. I love the character. I love what Mark Ruffalo did with it. I love the little nuances he gives to Banner, and so it's really fun for me to look at these, like the early minutes when we first kind of meet him, and I also love, in general, a lot of the early scenes in this movie, because it was very exciting for me to see all these characters come together like they never had before, like in movie history, like seeing the reality of the shared universe. In fact, it makes me think of, like, you know, in years past, so many Hollywood people would say, oh, there's no way these different heroes could share the screen. They're just like, their whole vibe is different. It just wouldn't work. And I'd be ripping my hair out saying it worked for 75 years in comics and you can't figure out how to do it. And seeing these intro scenes where these, like, different heroes are meeting each other for the first time and seeing their different flavors kind of clash and mix on screen was so gratifying. As like a lifelong geek, it's like, see, it can work and it's so much fun. So I love these early scenes where we're getting the intros and we're kind of contrasting the different vibes of all the heroes and their worlds and them coming together.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, and Pete, we've talked about this with some other guests about how they had tried that the Spider-Man films were kind of a big one, but it seemed like in the Raimi films, by the time you got to Spider-Man 3, and it just seemed like you had so many, characters working with Spider-Man and against Spider-Man that it just seemed too complex. Like they couldn't quite figure out how to script it in a way that would make it work. And even in the X-Men films, it felt like there were a couple of the heroes that were spotlighted, but a lot of the others just felt like they were just kind of there just to do their tricks and then disappear. And so, I mean, I guess you can see why people were concerned about it, but it is funny, to your point, that it took so long to really try to figure out how and why.
Well, and how to do it on the big screen. I sort of think you bring up all those movies, and now with the gift of hindsight, I kind of feel like those movies were showing the work, right? Like showing the practice, because Spider-Man, the first Raimi film was, I thought, still holds up for me. But then you're right, they just turned to chaos. X-Men, they have just a gleeful amount of fun with all the different tricks and powers, especially in the second one, and then it turns to chaos, and yet, with every one of those movies, you can see they're trying to do a little bit more to massage these things together. And I think with the Avengers, you see, I think the nuance and the humanity of the grounding of all these characters that we've had for the last 5 movies that I think makes these things really, really work. Now they've figured out sort of how to make these larger than life characters feel human and share the scene chewing that's going on screens. I'm curious, Ryan, from your perspective on, and we've talked about this with a number of folks in these kind of in and around these minutes, but as a legit Hulk fan, what's your take on the recasting, the Norton Ruffalo conundrum?
You know, I enjoyed what each of them brought to it. I loved that both of them seemed really passionate about it. I remember when Norton was cast and being surprised that it was like, oh, he seems like really invested in this and like trying to do things. So I really respected that. I'm a Ruffalo guy, though, as far as I like his interpretation of Banner a little better. And I mean, they're both very enjoyable. If Norton had stayed, of course, I would have enjoyed that. But I think that Ruffalo brings a different type of vulnerability to him, and just some of the nuances that he puts into the performance, especially these early scenes. Like, I love how you see in this minute, and you even see kind of continuing on into some other scenes in the movie, his posture is very kind of folded in on itself. Like, he's trying to, even just kind of shrink in on himself, like, don't look at me, don't notice me. And anytime there's any kind of someone with authority around, or a soldier or someone in charge, he turns away, he puts his face down, like he's doing his best to not establish dominance over anybody. He doesn't want to be noticed. And it's those little things. He never talks about it and says, oh, I do this because I don't want to be noticed or whatever. He just does it. And I really like that. To me, it showed so much thought going into how the character would act, and thinking of Banner as a person and not just thinking of him as a vessel for Hulk.
And we really get that. I mean, that's kind of the only time he's given the opportunity to be on the run, is in this minute where he's following the girl and he turns away from the soldiers on the road, and you really get that sense that he is still a fugitive from himself. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He's trying to solve his problem. He's a continuation of the Norton character from the last movie, and yet I think you're absolutely right. I think so much of what he does in this, just his mannerisms, the things he invests into his hands, the way his hands are constantly moving together is really special. I think for me at this point in the movie, I'm still thinking about the recasting, and it's just, I think, 2 minutes from now or so that I am officially allowed to free myself of rethinking about it. It's later in this scene that he has a moment that I think is just, it's like, oh, Ruffalo's here. I get it. I understand.
Yeah, he plays it really in an interesting way, and I like the way the scene plays. Before he's even left, it's interesting because, we see the setup of this scenario, which fits very much in the TV show, and that whole thing where he's helping a sick kid, that we see this kid sick in bed, and this young girl who is pleading, and, she knows at least one word in English, as she says, please. And she has money, although I do doubt Bruce actually took that money. But there's this draw to helping others that I really like that they set up. And then that little journey to the fringes of Calcutta where they go, I find that to be well crafted in context of what they want to say with this character. Now, I did question this whole the way that he behaves with, I wasn't sure if it was like police car that drives by or military or what. It's not like Kolkata is like, there's nothing going on there that speaks to, oh, this is a place that's under like military presence or something. So it was a little strange. It just seemed like a weird directorial shortcut to put that in just to, give us a sense that he needed to kind of hide from something. It was a strange moment. And I'm not a fan of the way he acts there because he makes himself, from my perspective, look more suspicious because he kind of like, turns and kind of like squats down, ducking away from them as if he's trying to hide himself. I don't know. I found that to be an odd moment, although I totally appreciate the perspective that you take with it as to what we're trying to get with the character. Am I the only one reading that scene weird?
No, I think I get what you mean. He made you bring up an interesting point because maybe he's not always good at hiding, but maybe it's his default setting. But he's a scientist and not a spy after all. So,
sure. Okay, all right, you win this round.
Just not good at it. It didn't strike me as weird. I didn't actually think it was weird. But I get it. And I just want to confirm, I think it's pretty clear he doesn't take the money because he says in this minute, I should have gotten paid up front because she jumps out the window without the money. Yeah. And that's, I think, actually a really great minute for him because he gets to say that and you get the sense that he's aware, oh, crap, this again. Like I've been actually catfished. Hulkfish.
Yeah.
Hulkfish. Oh, hashtag Hulkfish. Make that a thing.
Oh my gosh.
But I think when you have so many characters to introduce, it does a good job of with an economy of minutes giving you a snapshot of him, who he is, what he's doing, his situation. I also think this movie does a good job of leveraging the other movies and kind of going in, sort of reintroducing you, like happens here, but also it feels like going in with the understanding of you've probably seen the other movies, so we're going to reintroduce you, but at the same time we're going to know that you probably already have enough familiarity with his characters that we can hit the ground running.
Yep.
Well, to a certain extent, like Black Widow, we had seen her in action in the last film, or not in the last film, but a few films ago. Hawkeye, we never really got to see. Unfortunately, we still don't really get to see much from him in this particular, the start of this film. But this with Bruce, like this is the first time we're really seeing this Bruce doing anything. And so, but to your point, I think that the storytellers knew how to craft it in a way where it's very short. Like this scene, I mean, it's just a continuation from the last minute and then a few more minutes. So it's a very short scene that we have with Bruce here. But it really does say so much about who he is. And Pete, to your point, a few minutes from now, toward the end of this scene, like it really stands out and makes you go, oh yeah, this actor, he's got this character under control.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, the exterior of this location, we are at the Albuquerque rail yards. This is where they're running across, and we'll also be filming, or we'll return to this location later in the film when Banner crashes into the abandoned warehouse. And so this location's used a few times. I accidentally said that this was the location where they're filming the old factory, but that was actually, in fact, an old Westinghouse factory in Cleveland, not here. So just, all these different locations that they're filming all these things.
Wait, you're talking about the factory where...
The Russian factory, sorry.
The Russian factory where we first meet Black Widow.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I had said that it was the Albuquerque rail yards because the train was passing by and my brain got all confused. But it happens. What are you going to do?
You are getting older.
It's a lot of minutes.
So many minutes. Okay, so before we go inside, I did just also want to point out we have 3 random people sitting around outside watching TV, presumably a soap opera of some sort. There are 2 goats and some chickens, and they're kind of hanging out. And I just was wondering, like, are these people spies? Are they part of the team? Or are these people just in the way and they just happen to be there and we won't see, but they'll actually kind of like get kind of moved out of harm's way just in case something happens? Any thoughts on our 3 people sitting around out there?
I think they're spies.
You think they're spies?
I guess I would be bad at hiding like Banner because I never even thought of that. But that's a great point. I imagine S.H.I.E.L.D. wouldn't leave any variables outside so close to where they're meeting, so they probably are spies. That's interesting. That never occurred to me.
Well, and one of them is a young boy, and I was just like, well, it seems weird. But then again, we're in this scene with Natasha, and she's going to talk about the fact that this young girl, we'll talk about that tomorrow, but still, this idea that, she started this young, so... So who knows? Maybe they are young spies for S.H.I.E.L.D. already.
Trainees, yeah.
Trainees, exactly. Well, we go inside, and I guess my question about this location is, does it seem like someone lives here? It looks like a really well put together, I mean, in the terms of kind of old abandoned shacks, which is what it's scripted as, it seems like it's well taken care of. There's, a lot of decorations, there's furniture, like there's a pot on, and we see some steam coming out from the kitchen area. It really feels like somebody is living here. I don't know. What were your thoughts of this? Is this, going back to the whole concept with S.H.I.E.L.D., is this like a S.H.I.E.L.D. safe house that they use when they need to do something in this area, or did they just rent this from somebody who lives around here?
That's a good question. I wonder if it could be more S.H.I.E.L.D. set dressing a little bit, kind of like, for one, making it look like when he's approaching, like someone actually lives here. I do also think it's interesting once you're inside. You're right. It is. I mean, the lighting is nice in there.
Yeah, right.
There's something on the pot. I wonder if they even thought, okay, let's create an environment in here that is not stressful because we don't want to set them off. So. It seems like an organization like S.H.I.E.L.D. again probably wouldn't just do something random.
Yeah, I think it's a Shield B&B. Like I think they backed a truck of money up to a Calcutta resident and just sort of took it over and cleared the area.
Which again speaks to those three people out front being spies.
Yeah, right.
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's clearly not lost on S.H.I.E.L.D. what they're attempting to do. Like, they don't have great experience with Hulk. So,
which we see later, a few minutes later, when you realize who all is actually there.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, our little girl, it's a really well crafted scene. Like, it's a nice steady cam shot as we kind of follow him following her into this house, kind of maneuvering through the space. And then he stops as he sees her run into the back room. And then we cut to a shot of her climbing out the window and disappearing. And it's well crafted. You got the music. And then this is something else that we've seen a number of times already up to this point in the film, where there's nice comedy work done with the way that the music is playing. We've had this nice kind of, Indian instrumentation playing through the music as they're kind of going through the process of all of this. And then the music cuts to give us Bruce's line, allowing for that comedy. I like the way that these moments, these beats have been hitting in the film so far. I mean, we saw one in Russia when, it's kind of got the tense music, and then suddenly the thug's phone rings and the music stops, and that's allowing for the comedy. And it's an interesting directorial choice that allows for the comedy to kind of come through in I feel, a fairly natural way. How does it play for you, Ryan?
Yeah, I like it. And it's a clever way to very quickly go from something that seems serious to something that is more whimsical. And I think it works really well. It's not jarring at all. It's a good way to blend the two. And I feel like that's one of the things the film does really well, actually, is it flows back and forth between some comedy and more serious stuff very, very nicely. And it's obvious. I think the editing really, really helps that out. So whoever was the editor must have known what they were doing.
I should know who that is. Jeffrey Ford and Lisa Lassick were our editors.
Okay.
Yeah. They were the two.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Editors don't get enough credit in Hollywood.
Truth.
Very true. Very true. Yet they are often the backbone of making a film work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure they've saved more movies than we can know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Once our little girl leaves, this is when we hear a line from the back. For a man who's supposed to be avoiding stress, you pick a hell of a place to settle. It is, of course, Natasha Romanoff, who is here in all new clothes. Again, this is supposed to be the same day as the day she was over in Russia. So very quick getting here, very quick change, quick setting this place up, quick getting this little girl prepped and ready to perform this thing. Marvel Wiki, we love you. Regardless, Natasha is here and she's looking great. I believe, were you on the Iron Man 2 season with Kyle and Rob?
Pretty sure I was, yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk about Natasha Romanoff? Because I'd love to know your thoughts of the character and Scarlett Johansson's portrayal of her.
I don't know which minutes I did for that. It's been a while, but I'm a fan. I think, well, for one, I was at first I wasn't super enthused when they cast her, because I knew that Emily Blunt was their first choice, and I thought, well, that's basically the best casting you could do in like any role. But then when I heard how Scarlett Johansson really chased after the role and like really was passionate about getting it, and like showed up to dinner with I think Favreau, having already dyed her hair red, and like I really love that. I love when an actor is not like ironically detached about a role, but like they're really going at it and passionate about it. So after that, I wanted to enjoy it and be a fan anyway. I really like what she does with the character. I like that it's very obvious, especially because we've already seen her in a couple things, that when she walks into the scene, she's got Black Widow game face on. She's there. Even the way she's talking to him, the way she's dressed even, it is meant to disarm, but also get into his head. And I like the way that she handles that. And not to get too far ahead, because I know it's in different minutes, but I even like the turn of realizing that, she's genuinely terrified of him, but she does not let that show until like the chips are down. So yeah, I'm really a fan of this. I like it.
I like your comment about the way that she looks here, and I think that makes a lot of sense in the scope of disarming him, because to your point, that's her goal at this point, to disarm him, make him comfortable enough to have this conversation and to get him to come in and join this Avengers initiative that S.H.I.E.L.D. is putting in place. I don't think that it would have worked had she shown up in, kind of the black leather outfit with the weaponry and stuff that we kind of are used to her seeing her in when she's fighting. And so it's actually smartly put together, the way that they've kind of designed this moment for her to feel more welcoming, I suppose, is a way to look at it.
Yeah, even her tone of voice, everything, it's a little bit softer. It's like, it's not the spy Black Widow voice that we've heard, like in, when she's getting ready to fight or anything like that. It's the relaxing voice, a touch sultry, I think really well done.
It's kind of also the start of this relationship between these two, which is, it's, seeing kind of where it goes down the road. It's kind of, I don't know. It's just interesting to see that this is kind of the starting place of their interactions.
Yeah. And then she'll learn down the road, of course, that her charms only go so far with Hulk.
Yeah.
Which I think, ironically, is the reason that she falls for him, because Hulk cannot be charmed.
Yeah.
And so, which means that her greatest weapon is powerless, really, against him.
Yeah, it is a little bit frustrating, just knowing that this starts and this scene, we get a little bit of the dance between the two of them, which I think is super cute. I think it's a well-written scene. I struggle knowing the long arc of their relationship and just how weirdly misguided their so-called budding romance becomes. That part is frustrating, again, with the gift of hindsight, just because it's confused. I wish it wasn't confused. But I love their relationship in this sequence, their banter, the wit, the dance.
Yeah, it makes me think of there's an energy to it, the way there is with some of the other scenes, especially like one of probably my all-time favorite scene in this movie is with Banner and Stark in the lab and everything, and just talking. And there's an energy to those scenes with these characters first meeting and interacting. It makes me think of things that I've written, that I've had these different characters, and I know a scene is coming where it's the first time they're interacting. And that's very exciting to me as a writer, because they're characters that I love. I can't wait to get them in the same room and just kind of see what happens when they're interacting. I feel like, maybe I'm projecting, but I feel like in scenes like this and several other scenes, I'm feeling that excitement and that energy in the writing of the scene and how the characters deal with each other.
Well, and it's nice. I mean, she knows who he is, and, per the comic books, we know that when Bruce was at Culver University, in The Incredible Hulk, that she was there on campus as a backup per Nick Fury to make sure that things didn't get out of hand. And obviously he hulked out and he battled with Ross and all of them. But it didn't get out of hand where she needed to be involved. So she knows who he is. She's aware. And so she also is wary of him. But this is a point where he has no idea who she is, what she's capable of. And so I think it makes for an interesting setup of this particular conversation that we have here, as he sees a woman in a nice dress and instantly is evaluating exactly what she did and knows that, okay, she's in a nice dress, but she knows who I am. She was smart enough to bring me to the edge of the city. The place is likely surrounded. He puts two and two together in such a smart way, and the way that he plays this character through the scene, I find mesmerizing. Just like the way he's rubbing his hands together, constantly looking around and evaluating the situation. I'm fascinated by it, and I think it works exceptionally here.
Yeah, agreed. It's almost like he feels like prey, like he feels hunted, which, in a way he has been. And yeah, I just love the physicality of that Ruffalo brings. And again, just subtle. And I love it when they do stuff like that, but never have to shine a light on it. They just let you discover it and enjoy it. And yeah, so I remember seeing this in the theater and being very excited that, kind of like you said before, that's like, okay, yeah, he's doing it. He's got this character, and being able to just relax and enjoy it.
He's such a competent, it's such an exceptionally competent actor, and understanding all of the different directions this could go. He's hunted, yeah, but kind of unthreatened by the hunt. He just feels more frustrated by the fact that he's hunted, and that he's I just get the feeling that the thing he's more scared of is the risk to everybody around him because he knows what he's capable of. And the fact that people are trying to catch him it feels like more of a nuisance to the work that he's trying to do. And that's the balance I've always appreciated about Hulk, is that he's still trying to do the right thing in spite of this constant pestering of those who want to control him, to do harm to him, to change him, all of that. And I think Ruffalo nails that.
Yeah, that's a great point, because you're right. He doesn't, as he reveals later on, he knows that anything that they would try physically is not going to really have any success.
Right. Considering we learned he's tried to kill himself and the other guy spit the bullet out. Like that, those kinds of throwaway lines are all leading up to his gigantic hero moment later in this movie that is my favorite Hulk moment of all time.
Well, and that also it starts getting telegraphed here when he talks about avoiding stress isn't the secret. We're starting to get the hint to that with people like, what is the secret? What is the secret?
That's right. That's a really good point.
I also like how there is this little nod to the last movie, The Incredible Hulk, with Natasha saying what is it, yoga? Because when we first see Bruce in the last film, he is, of course, meditating.
It's yoga.
And
right.
I kind of like that little drop there.
And then Tony later guesses big bag of weed. So they all have their guesses. Yeah,
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Can we just say how sort of magical it is that they've only had to recast one a major superhero character in the course of these films?
Two.
It's
well, we've got. You're right. Oh God, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was thinking about Black Panther.
Oh well,
but you're right. So 3. But of the principals here, that's kind of a big deal. Like that, this feels like a pretty significant orchestration. They're doing well. Let's just say that feels really good.
That's a great point. Yeah, you would expect something this big with this many moving parts would have more exits, but I think they were smart with their contracts too, and looking to the future and saying, okay, we're going to want these same faces for a while.
Yeah, and to get the actors who are willing at that point in their careers to commit to that sizable of a contract is that's kind of a big deal. And you can tell it's a big deal when they get to movies, 7, 8, 9 in their contract and they start bitching about
it. Only 3 more movies left to go, and then I'm done.
Sort of done playing this character.
I think Hemsworth said recently that he's done with the routine to get into Hulk form, like the shape. And I think he recently said something like, well, they can put me in a bodysuit next time if they want me again.
That's a lot of work. Those actors who have to do that. And we talked about that a little bit last season with Chris Evans when he had to bulk up for coming out of the chamber, because it's like you have to dehydrate your body so much so you get, those strong cuts and everything. And it's just, it's a lot of body abuse to get yourself looking that way.
Yeah, and like Hemsworth now, he's 40, and your body's going to start feeling that if you put it through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. Well, there's not much more to this minute. We end with him asking her about her actress buddy. We'll talk about that exchange a little bit more tomorrow. So let's wrap up the conversation for today. Ryan, tell us about some of these books that you've written and where people can track them down.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first series, which has been out for a little while now, the Time Shift trilogy. The first one's called The Year of Lightning. They are a series of time travel mysteries. And then I just recently had my latest book come out, completely different, called This Last Adventure. It's a departure for me. It's not sci-fi or anything. It follows a boy who uses storytelling to try to save his grandfather's memories from Alzheimer's. So it's contemporary with a touch of fantasy.
Wow.
Fantastic. Find those on Amazon. We'll have a link in our show notes. If you're not seeing the show notes in your podcast app, some apps aren't very great with show notes, so you can always find them on our website. If you're looking, just go to marvelmovieminute.com and you can find them there. So that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about minute 18. So, Pete, thanks as always.
Andy, tomorrow, the dance continues.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Message to the World by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.